Claire Newman had never been one to back down from a challenge. Growing up in the Newman family, she was accustomed to being determined and sharp-witted, traits that made her a force to be reckoned with in the cutthroat world she navigated. However, the case that had consumed her mind lately was one that had proven far more elusive than she had anticipated. The mystery surrounding the death of a prominent art dealer in Los Angeles, and the role that Audra Charles, a name Claire couldn't quite shake from her thoughts, played in the incident. It wasn't just the case that was bothering her. It was the way Holden Novak, the man who had become both a key piece of this puzzle and someone she had grown increasingly drawn to, had been keeping her in the dark. Despite the tension between them, Claire had always believed Holden was different. He wasn't like the other men who'd come and gone from her life. But Holden was now a man haunted by his own secrets, secrets that he was desperate to protect. He was unwilling to give her the full story, and Claire found herself at a frustrating standstill. She couldn't help but feel that Holden knew more than he was letting on, but he wasn't going to crack so easily. Claire's gut instinct told her that something fatal had happened in Los Angeles. The art dealer's death wasn't just an accident, there was something deeper at play, and Audra Charles was somehow involved. What exactly had happened, though, and what role had Holden played in it? These were the questions that were driving Claire to her breaking point. Holden, in an attempt to protect Audra, had inadvertently delivered a fatal blow to the art dealer during an altercation. He had been trying to keep Audra safe, and in the chaos of that moment, things had spiraled out of control. Holden had pushed the art dealer into the bar, and it was a moment that would haunt him forever. Claire had a sense that Holden was trying to bury the truth, but she couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion that he was hiding something crucial. Despite Claire's persistence, Holden wasn't budging. Their conversations had become strained, and it soon became clear that their relationship, whatever it had been, was falling apart. Claire had always prided herself on her ability to uncover the truth, but now she felt as though she was banging her head against a wall. She needed answers, and Holden's refusal to speak was only making her more determined. Finally, the breaking point came. Claire made the painful decision to cut ties with Holden, realizing that their relationship was built on a foundation of lies and half-truths. She couldn't be with someone who wasn't fully honest with her, not when she was so close to unraveling the truth about the art dealer's death. She needed to be sharp, focused, and willing to do whatever it took to get to the bottom of things. It was then that Claire's thoughts turned to another person, Kyle Abbott. The two had shared a complicated history, one that had been marred by manipulation and betrayal. Claire remembered the time when Kyle had tricked Audra into thinking he was falling for her, all in the name of uncovering her true motives. It had been a dangerous game, and it had cost Kyle more than he had bargained for. But in the chaos of that situation, Claire had seen something, an opportunity. Kyle had been a part of her life once, and he was a man who knew how to navigate the complex world of family and business. He was also someone who had shared a deep connection with Audra, even if it had been built on deceit. But there was something more beneath the surface, a spark that was hard to ignore. Kyle and Audra had an undeniable chemistry, and Claire realized that this could be her key to getting the full story. If she could get Kyle back in Audra's orbit, she might be able to manipulate the situation to her advantage. With Holden out of the picture, Claire found herself revisiting her alliance with Kyle. It wasn't the first time they had worked together, and it probably wouldn't be the last. But this time, Claire had a different approach. She knew that Kyle could be the perfect person to get close to Audra once again, this time with the sole purpose of uncovering the truth about what had really happened in Los Angeles. Claire's plan was simple: use Kyle to seduce Audra. She knew it would throw Kyle for a loop given the fake seduction drama they had been through before, but if anyone could pull it off, it was Kyle. He had done it before, and this time he would be doing it with one goal in mind: to get Audra to open up about the art dealer's death. Kyle might not be thrilled with the idea, but Claire was convinced it was the only way forward. She needed to know the truth, and if it meant putting Kyle back in the line of fire with Audra, so be it. It wasn't just about getting the answers anymore. It was about making sure that Claire Newman, the woman who would stop at nothing to uncover the truth, got what she wanted. As Claire made her plans, she couldn't help but wonder how far Kyle would be willing to go this time. They had been through so much together, and their history was far from clean. But this time, the stakes were higher. Claire was desperate, and Kyle might be her only chance at getting the answers she needed. The tension was mounting, and the stakes were higher than ever. Claire was ready to do whatever it took to get to the truth, even if it meant using Kyle once again as her pawn. Would he play along, or would he resist? And would Claire be able to navigate the dangerous waters of seduction, manipulation, and family loyalty to uncover the truth about the art dealer's death? Only time would tell. Kyle Abbott had always been a man of many contradictions. He was smart, resourceful, and willing to play the game when it suited him, but there was always something more to him, something deeper that made him question his own actions. His history with Audra Charles was complicated, to say the least. They had been through a tumultuous period where emotions ran high and trust was in short supply. What started as a mutual game of seduction had spiraled into something more dangerous, and Kyle had played his part in pushing Audra to her limits. But now, as Claire reached out to him once again with a new plan, Kyle couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. Claire was asking him to do something he wasn't sure he could do again, use Audra for his own gain. He had already done that once, manipulating her into thinking they were on the same page, and it had left him with a sour taste in his mouth. It had also caused significant tension between him and Claire, a tension that had never fully gone away. Still, Kyle knew that Claire was a force to be reckoned with. She was relentless when she set her mind to something, and she had a way of making people do things they didn't want to do. If there was anyone who could convince him to go along with her plan, it was Claire. The idea of seducing Audra once again felt wrong to Kyle, but as Claire outlined her reasoning, he couldn't deny that it made sense. They needed the truth about what had happened in Lowe's Angels, and Audra was the key. Kyle had been in her orbit before, and he knew just how far she was willing to go to manipulate others. If Claire was going to get to the bottom of things, she needed someone who could get close to Audra without raising suspicion. Kyle was the perfect candidate. But as Kyle weighed the pros and cons, he found himself wondering just how far he was willing to go. Claire wanted him to seduce Audra and use their growing bond to pry information out of her. It was a dangerous game, one that could backfire in ways that Kyle couldn't even predict. But the stakes were high. They needed answers, and Kyle was willing to do what it took to get them, especially if it meant securing the truth that would bring everything into the light. Kyle and Audra had shared a kiss not too long ago, a kiss that had been loaded with both tension and unspoken emotions. It had been a moment of taunting, a way for Kyle to show Audra that she could never have him. But now, as Claire presented her plan, he couldn't help but wonder if there was more to their connection than he had been willing to admit. Would he be able to seduce Audra once again, this time with the goal of uncovering the truth? Or would he find himself falling for her all over again, caught in the web of manipulation and deceit that had already cost him so much? As the days passed and Claire pushed him harder, Kyle knew one thing for certain. This game was far from over, and the consequences of playing it could change everything. It was a dangerous game they were all playing, but the stakes were too high to back out now. Claire, Holden, Kyle, and Audra were all caught in a tangled web of secrets, lies, and betrayal. The truth was out there, but getting to it would require more than just a few twists and turns. It would take everything they had: trust, deception, and the willingness to do whatever it took to uncover the story that everyone wanted to keep buried. And so, with a mix of determination and reluctance, Kyle prepared to dive back into the game, knowing that this time the stakes were higher than ever before. As he set his sights on Audra once again, he couldn't help but wonder, what price would he pay for the truth?